Hello, hello, out there in YouTube land. When somebody signs on, could you let me know that you hear me, that you can see me, that all is working well? I I had a realization while I was getting ready to sign on here that I get a little anxious about it, a little nervous about it, and I thought that I would share that with you because I think that in a couple of lives ago, we talked about how we get confidence, how we get more confidence, and it's not from we don't wait, we do. This is the problem we have. We wait to take action until we get confidence, and that's not the way it works. So I was thinking as I was getting ready for this live that I guess I'm doing what I'm practicing what I preach, right? I'm getting on live even though I feel a little anxious about it. Uh, but the confidence comes from me doing the thing, from me getting on the live. Again, that's not what we're talking about today, but I just wanted to share that because I know confidence can be a big a big factor in our lives, a thing that can really hold us back and keep us stuck from taking an action because we think because we don't have confidence that um, we must not be quite ready yet to take the action. But the confidence comes from when we take the action. So if someone on can just throw in the chat that you can hear me, I'm assuming you can since otherwise you probably would log back off again if you couldn't hear me, or you'd be saying, "Hey, I can't hear you." But let me know if you can. So today we are talking about inner peace and how we cannot have inner peace when we're at war with ourselves. And what do I mean by that? When we're looking in the mirror and picking apart everything that we see, we get on the scale and we start berating ourselves for eating so poorly or whatever. We wake up in the morning and we're tired and because we didn't go to bed at a decent hour, and then we pick at ourselves all day for not for being tired, and then we're stressed and it just becomes a snowball, right? We can't trust ourselves to make a decision when we can't trust our gut to tell us the truth, or we don't listen to it, right? I've said many times that the ego shouts and the intuition whispers. So many times we think the thing that's talking louder is the thing that's true, and that's not accurate. The our intuition, our inner self doesn't need to shout because it knows the truth. And so it just talks to you many times in whispers, but the ego is shouting so loud to get its way and to keep us in our comfort zone that we hear it and we think it's telling us the truth. And so we tend to continue to listen to it and follow it and not trust those little whispers that are happening. We we are at war with ourselves when we have negative self-talk and we're very disapproving of ourselves, right? Like I said, we get on the scale and, don't see the number that we like. Those are just numbers, right? They don't indicate anything about who we are, but we allow those things to take away our inner peace. We become very disapproving of ourselves, our decisions, our or how we look or act, right? How many times have you looked in the mirror and thought, "Oh my gosh, I don't I look old," or "I don't like that new wrinkle," or right? We can pick at ourselves so easily We can't have peace when we think that we're inferior, when we compare ourselves to other people and put ourselves down. And that is not loving the person and the gift that you were put here on earth to be. So that's what we're talking about today. How I'm going to give you 3 things that we do that take away or add to our inner peace, and we can shift any 3 all 3 of them at any time. We just have to be Hi, Catherine. Welcome. What time is it for you? It must be early in the morning, right? Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. So we're talking about we can't be at peace when we're at war with ourselves. I know sometimes when it's 7:30. Oh, it's not that early. Okay. I thought maybe it was earlier than that for you. Catherine is in New Zealand, correct? Um, so and I have some notes here because I wanted to make sure that I shared everything with you that I had thought about this. So inner peace is not a technique that we develop. It's not something that we really practice per se. It's not a skill. Yes, New Zealand, cool. Um, it is the absence of internal conflict. So a lot of times we feel conflicted inside. We can't make a decision, or we're having negative self-talk, and we think a lot of times that the external is influencing us or creating that conflict. That conflict is coming from within us, and I'm going to talk about 3 areas where it comes from. So again, inner peace isn't a technique necessarily that we develop. It's I guess it's kind of a becoming of who we were put here to be, the gift that we were put here to show up in the world as. So we all have this inner critic, right? This judge. It constantly talks to us. Blah, 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 blah. Like is it the Charlie Brown? Um, where the dog, all they hear is wah, 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 right? A lot of times our inner critic, our judge, it just plays constantly. You shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have said that. All of these shoulds and shouldn't, right? When we should on ourselves, that's always going to create internal conflict, right? And take away the inner peace. So the peace comes from stopping that attack, like slowing down that. And how do we do that? What happens is if we let that go on and on and on, if we let that self-talk just continue without examining it and looking at where is that coming from? Because that's not the worthy you that you were put here to be. That's not that person that is saying all those things. You are not your thoughts either. I want to point that out. I think it was Gay Hendricks who wrote the book The Big Leap. He talks about, I think it was him, if people heard all the thoughts that he thought, that he heard, he said, I would be in jail. We all would be, because these thoughts just come right at random. They're not who we are. So if we don't stop and examine them, though, they will just continue because they're basically on basic a recorder that's just replaying over and over and over again. If you've ever thought about it, what new thought have you had today that you didn't have yesterday? Very seldom do we have new thoughts unless we're actually in a conscious state of creating something new, such as me coming up with this, these things that I wanted to talk about here. Those are new thoughts that I have. These are new thoughts that I'm sharing with you, thoughts that I put together in a way that I hope will make sense to you and help you with being at war with yourself, because we can't have inner peace when we're at war. Hi, Lene. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. So I have New Zealand here. I have Sweden here. Who else is representing? We have some people watching. So where else are you coming in from? We have New Zealand and Sweden. Where else? I'd love to know. So, and I would love to know, is this inner critic really loud for you? Because what happens is we let this inner critic continue on, we don't examine it, and then we basically build this weapon that we use against ourselves. And it's just like creating a physical weapon that we use to beat ourselves up with. That is, beating ourselves up never creates positive change. But I think we were taught that if we use, negative reinforcement, that will create change. If you think about a kid, how likely are they to change when they're given negative reinforcement? Or a dog, right? Dogs don't behave differently when they're given negative reinforcement. They behave differently when they're given positive reinforcement. So how can we reinforce our thoughts and our behaviors and our beliefs in a positive way? Oh, Rebecca, hi. I don't recognize your name, but welcome. Also from New Zealand. Wow. New Zealand is fully represented on the other side of the world. I'm from Phoenix. I'm from Arizona, so I guess I'm representing the United States. But I would love to know where else people are watching from. Welcome, welcome. If you have comments on this, how often do you beat yourself up? How often have you ever had the thought, if I'm harder on myself, maybe not a conscious thought, but is there that feeling there? If I'm harder on myself, then I can make myself change into someone that I want to show up as. Catherine said, I've been working with my inner critic for decades. It's made a massive difference. Mine is my insecure and frightened child and teen. Yeah, absolutely. Because, and I'm going to be talking to you more about that, Catherine. Catherine and I are having a session later. And we're going to be talking about that, how we develop this primal question when we're young that drives all of our behaviors, because we're wanting to get a yes answer to this primal question, and not like verbally, but unconsciously we're seeking a yes to our question that makes us feel safe. But if we sense that we're getting a no or a maybe from our primal question, from the person that we're with, or even from our own self in the situation that we're in, we will go into what's called the scramble. And these are behaviors that aren't serving us. Like for me, my primal question is, am I loved? And if you want a session on this, I would be glad to do a session with you. My link is in the description to book that session, but I'm excited for it too, Catherine. But we go into what's called the scramble. So for me, my primal question is, am I loved? And if I sense from somebody that I'm with, whether it's well, I don't work in a corporate environment anymore, but then if it was a coworker or my boss or friends or, your partner, whoever, if you get a no or a maybe to your primal question, you'll go into the scramble. And for me, for am I loved, the scramble includes people-pleasing behaviors. So I would put my needs on the back burner, put them first, make sure they were happy, make sure they were comfortable, in order for me to feel that was getting a yes answer to my primal question, am I loved? It's fascinating because it all comes from the subconscious. And I started this conversation because Catherine said she's been working um, with her insecure and frightened child, right? So we all grew up in different environments, right? Maybe yours was traumatic, maybe it was abusive, maybe it was verbally abusive, maybe like mine, it was just kind of there in a way. There was not a lot of emotional demonstration. Like my parents weren't emotionally demonstrative, so I didn't feel the sense of loved. I don't remember ever being told that I was loved. I never doubted that I was, but right, as kids, we don't have the ability to analyze things. So we take in everything we experience as the truth, and then we build stories around this. These are stories that aren't true, but we think they are. And we do these things in order, as kids, to be safe and to be secure, right? So maybe you didn't speak up because you got belittled or criticized or shamed or guilted or abused for speaking up, right? And so you learned what behaviors would keep you safe. And then those behaviors become habits as adults. Rebecca said, for me, it's I don't want to disappoint or be the cause of someone's unhappiness. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is a Have you ever, Rebecca, have you ever thought of yourself as a people pleaser? Would you call yourself that? And if so, is that did you see it as a positive attribute or a negative attribute? Because I asked my mom a few years ago. Yes, so you did. I asked my mom a few years ago what she thought a people pleaser was, and she said, "Well, it's someone who, does things, goes out of their way to do things for other people, to keep them happy, that it's a nice thing to do." So in her mind, a people pleaser, and in mine too, because obviously I grew up with her as an example, it was a positive way to be. It was the way that I thought I was supposed to be, always putting everyone else's needs ahead of mine, letting them make the decisions for me, right? And I'm going to go into more of how this to be a good Christian, right? To you saw it as positive, don't be selfish, right? And I just put out a video on Monday where I'm talking about a little bit about selfish. And I know there is, and I have other videos on my channel that are about selfish. There is, we were fed a lie, and I know it wasn't on purpose, about the meaning of the word selfish. But the word selfish actually means, if you're just joining us, say in the live or say in the chat where you're from. Would love to have other countries represented. We have New Zealand, Sweden, and the US represented so far. What was I saying? Oh, we were told, right, that being selfish was a bad thing. And it is, if you follow the true definition. The true definition of selfish is only doing for yourself and at the detriment of other people. Us so then that led us to believe we always had to be giving to other people, right? Because they didn't tell us the definition was at the detriment of other people, right? And I have this calendar that I keep on my desk now because this was a huge aha moment for me. It's a little like daily calendar that my mom gave me in, I think it was 1998. So it is very old. And for some reason on May 22nd, a couple of years ago, I flipped to the page. It sits normally in my bathroom, or it did until I moved it to my desk. It sits in my bathroom, and I typically I wasn't turning the pages, right? And for some reason, May 22nd, a couple years ago, I decided to see, oh, I wonder what this calendar says for today. It says, "Forgive me and love me, God, when I am selfish. It's not easy to always think of others first." That is a message to us, right? I think especially as women, and again, this is heart warmers for mothers and daughters, right? So this is written for women. But that sends us the message that that God thinks that if we don't think of other people first always, it's not easy to always think of others first, that we are being selfish. And that is just not the definition. The definition is doing things for yourself at the detriment of other people. That's more like that's being self-centered. And that's not what a people pleaser does, right? We always do for others basically at the detriment to ourselves. So let's get back to the subject at hand here, which is, but this is part of it, right? We beat ourselves up telling ourselves, man, that was so selfish. And then we feel guilty and ashamed that we didn't act the way that we were taught to. But we were taught a lot of rules and lessons and things by people in our life. They didn't do it maliciously, but we were taught a lot of things that don't serve us. And I'm not saying that in a self-serving way. I'm saying in a way that we can't serve other people. We can't fill our cup when we are constantly trying to please other people, and when we are being at war with ourselves and not living up to our to the gifts and the person that we were put here to be. We can't do that when we are constantly ignoring ourselves and putting everyone else first. Yeah, Rebecca said, I became an easy pushover. Absolutely. And people pleasers, and I live this, are not only pushovers, right? But we are targets for abuse, whether it's verbal, or physical abuse, because we learned to not stand up for ourselves. We learned that other people are right, that we're wrong, that our opinion doesn't matter, that our needs don't matter, right? That's what ends up happening when we people please our way through life. Putting ourselves on the back burner is people pleasing. Prioritizing our wants and needs before everyone else's is not selfish. I don't know how many times I will say that until I die. I will preach that. I will get on the mountaintop and preach that, because I want women to understand it is not selfish to take care of yourself first. You've all heard this cliche. What do they tell you when you fly? Put on your mask first, right? If they were to fall. Then you have the oxygen, you have what you need to help others. But if you don't have the oxygen, you cannot help another person. If your cup isn't full by taking care of yourself, you cannot fully serve, which I do believe we are here to do, is to serve other people, but we can't do it from a people-pleasing standpoint. I know, Catherine said, I was told it was wrong to put yourself first. Right, that it's selfish to do that. I can't emphasize enough how much erroneous information we were taught. And again, it wasn't on purpose. I believe my mom believed that. And maybe that served her in her life, right? She didn't teach me to be this way on purpose to harm me, right? But I realized after 3 marriages how detrimental people pleasing was to my life. And I thought being unselfish was the right thing to do, to always make other people happy. But I ended up marrying a narcissist, and so I attracted, and he wasn't the only person that had that type of behavior that I attracted into my life. Rebecca said, "Thanks so much. This helps. I've been attempting to work on this and being more balanced." Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let me get to the, and I want to keep this ending about the top of the hour. So just so you kind of have a time frame, about 10 more minutes or so. So there are 3 areas that we can look at to be more balanced and less at war with ourselves. The first one is self-trust, right? Something doesn't feel right. And so we we try to make them more comfortable versus looking at, what is my body telling me here if this doesn't feel right? But we've learned through this people pleasing to not trust ourselves, right? We learn to not make decisions for ourselves because we think our intuition, we don't either listen to it or we think it can't be right, because again, our intuition whispers, our our ego shouts, and so we think because what we hear is loud that it must be the truth. Wow, if you're just coming in, we have 18 people watching. That's awesome. I think that's the most ever. Tell us where you're watching from, if you can, in the chat. I know if you're driving or on your phone, that the chat is a little bit difficult. I'm ready, just came in. That was a really good quote. Oh, I forgot what I said. The ego shouts. Yes, the ego shouts and the intuition whispers. And so we think, just like a kid, right? When they want attention, they shout, they get loud, they pull at your pant leg, whatever, right? That's what our that's what our ego does, because it wants to be heard. It thinks it's right. It wants attention, but it is not the truth. Your intuition is the truth. So starting to learn to sit with asking yourself questions like, what is it that I need to hear in this? If something doesn't feel right, right? What is it? I'm ready said, some people think God is saying something to them when it's their ego. Absolutely. That is absolutely true. Um, God doesn't shout that way, right? God doesn't shout at all. And I believe that we already have all the answers we need inside of us. So looking outside for the answers from other people, that erodes our self-trust. We can build our self-trust by starting to listen to that intuition and starting to take action on what we hear from the intuition, not from what we hear from our ego or from other people. Again, confidence comes after we take action. It doesn't come, we don't get it first and then we take action. You might take an action that ends up being not the best one, but you'll never know unless you take that action. So start trying to listen to your intuition. Self-trust is having integrity with yourself, right? We farm out our integrity. We farm out our trust to other people. And then when it doesn't turn out like we hoped, we get resentful and then we blame it on them. That's not trusting ourselves. That's what happens when we don't trust ourselves. So, a question you can ask yourself is, who am I for myself in this situation? Who do I want to show up as? Am I letting myself off the hook by not speaking up or not taking an action? Yeah, Lene said she had to listen to her intuition when she left her ex-husband. And Catherine said, getting quiet so I do notice is important, right? And that means we have to not be so busy all the time, right? Like we fill all of our time in with busyness. And I think part of that has become a habit to ignore what our intuition is whispering to us, right? Take the step. I'm sure, Line, when you left your ex, that there were a few times, right, that you heard this is the action you need to take. And you probably didn't take it the very first time you heard it. So it takes taking action to build that confidence. And I bet, Lena, you would say that you would never go back to that situation, right? So am I letting myself off the hook? Am I beating myself up? Am I allowing my ego to overrun my intuition? Yeah, whether or not it's true. Exactly. So that's the first one is self-trust. Trust no matter what action you decide to take, trust that you can handle the outcome, that you will have your own back, that you don't need to, that the best solutions, the best answers aren't coming from outside of you. They're coming from within you. And the more that you trust that you have your own back, that the next right path will open up when you take that step, then you just keep taking step after step after step and moving forward. The next area is self-respect. What is your self-talk like? Right? We talked about this a little bit ago. Are you comparing yourself to others, comparing yourself to their lives, how much they weigh, how many wrinkles they have, um, you know, just all these things that we can get into. This is a very pivotal book, and it was really life-changing for me to read this book. He talks in really plain, easy to understand, everyday language, and how he talks about the answers and finding a solution and building confidence, and how we I'm looking for creating positive change that lasts, and how we can retrain our thoughts to be more positive and supportive in our life. I'm ready said, I think loneliness is the greatest weapon of the universe because it pushes you into your ego. Mm. Oh, the greatest weapon of the universe. Yes, exactly. I misread it at first. Yes, exactly. And it it makes your ego wants to know it's right, and our ego causes us to believe that we are separate, that we are separated, that we're alone, that no one understands, that no one loves me, that no one could ever be with me, whatever the story is, right? But that's the ego. And that is a great way to put it. Loneliness is the greatest weapon because it pushes you into your ego. And then you hear yourself saying, see, they were right. See, I don't know any better. See, I should have done it that way. Right? That's the ego. That's not your intuition. So that was great. What to say when you talk to yourself. There's a link that I put in the description of this video that you can order this book. It's, it's on Amazon. It's not expensive. Again, it is super he lays it out in such a way that it's really easy to understand, and he gives 6 to 8 steps, I think it is, 6 steps to how to um, retrain your brain, retrain your thoughts to support you versus be the ego and, weaponize you. And that's what we're talking about, right? Like being at war with ourselves. So I highly recommend. That's an affiliate link, so I earn a small commission if you order it through that link. I would really appreciate if you want to get the book that you do order it through that link. Um, but it's at no extra cost to you. So you get it at whatever cost it is on Amazon. So self-trust, where is your self-talk, right? How much are you comparing yourself to others or to a version that you think you should be, right? This is back to shoulding on ourselves again. How much are you comparing yourself to, I should have done that. I should be better by now. I should know more by now. I should have had a better job by now. I should have, been married by now. Whatever it is. I should have been divorced by now. Whatever it is, right? That comparison, especially when we do it to who we think we should be, is truly a weapon that we're using against ourselves, and we can never find peace when we're doing that. We believe we're inferior, that we're not confident enough, right? And it ends up that impacts our nervous system. And if you're in a constant state of fight or flight, which is what that comparison will put you into, right? Not on purpose, you're not doing it on purpose, but that's what the nervous system thinks, because the brain, when we're comparing ourselves, thinks that we're not safe. That's the bottom line. And so when the brain doesn't feel safe, it puts the body automatically into fight or flight. There's that's an automatic reaction because the brain's job is to keep us safe and alive. And so, yeah, in the Rockies, hey, in the Rockies, I put out your video that you requested. So go check that out. It's the latest one on my channel. Um, in the Rockies said, ugh, I always compare myself to what I should be doing, right? So how can we get out of that? Part of that is to just start doing what you want to do and get rid of all the stuff that you think you should do, right? We make these lists and lists and lists of things that, we should be doing based on what we think other people think we should be doing, right? It's based on an external thing, a thought that we're being judged by others if we don't do what we think is expected of us. People pleasing is that, right? We people please because we think we should make other people happy, that we shouldn't put ourselves first. And that's what that video that I just released on Monday is about. In the Rockies said, yay, thank you. I look forward to your comments on it. So self-respect, right? Believing that you're inferior. And that puts our nervous system on alert. And what happens when our nervous system lives a lot in fight or flight, which I realized people pleasing was doing to me, because I was always worried about, are they okay? Are they happy? Are they disappointed in me? Did I hurt their feelings? Blah, 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 all that stuff. That my brain saw as unsafe, those thoughts and the behaviors that came from those thoughts. So living in that constant state of fight or flight ultimately will lead to dis-ease in the body, right? That's not a calm and comfortable way to be. So, and dis-ease equals eventually disease, right? I developed Hashimoto's thyroiditis because of being in this constant people-pleasing state with a husband who had an affair in year 2. And I created a video on that. That's just a few videos back. So not a live, but a long stream video. So that's out there if you want to watch that. Trying to prove our worth, right? A new belief is I'm doing the best I can. I'm enough just as I am, right? Starting to replace those negative self-talk things that you hear, just stopping, being aware of them, and then replacing them with something positive. I know that seems super simple, but you do that long enough, and that old belief will start to dissipate. The third area is self-acceptance. Do you look at yourself in the mirror and pick yourself apart? Do you get on the scale and, like, ugh, why, right? That those numbers, all of that says nothing about you and your worth, right? Your hair's too short, it's too gray, it's too whatever. There's too many wrinkles, right? We look at our body and think that that's us. Your body is not who you are. That is not your soul. Your body is just a meat suit to get you through this earthly journey. It is not who you are. It's not representative of who you are in your heart and your soul. So we need to let go of this belief that there's the perfect way to look, Someone commented on one of my videos that I needed to dye my sad gray hair. Why? What does that matter? Right? That's just a judgment. And if I believed those judgments, which they used to hurt me deeply because I believed that other people got to tell me who I was. Right? And so I didn't accept myself as I was, which made me not show up in the world as an authentic person because I was constantly wearing a mask to try and fit in with whoever was in my sphere that was judging me. Well, you get on YouTube and there's a lot of people judging, right? I was looking in the chat to see if there was more there. So being able to accept that this that you see, I mean, I see wrinkles right now. It doesn't matter because these wrinkles are not who I am, right? They're not my heart. They're not my soul. They're not my message. They're not who I'm here to be in this world. And if you want to judge me because of my wrinkles, then, have at it. But and I'm not saying that you people that are listening right now are doing that, but that is the mindset we need to adopt because people's judgment of us it says nothing about us. So, we have the three areas: self-trust, self-respect, and self-acceptance. And all three of these flow into self-love, unconditional self-love. And we talked earlier in this live about how that might feel selfish because you were told not to, what did somebody say? I was told it was wrong to put yourself first, right? Putting yourself first is the only way that you can truly live the life that you were put here to live. I believe that with every fiber in my being. And I haven't always believed that, but now I do. That is the only way to live the life that you were put here to live and show up fully as your authentic self. If that's, if you think that's weird or whatever it is, we need more authentic people. We don't need more AI, right? We don't need more people pretending to be something that they're not because that serves no one. It serves absolutely no one. So self-love is not selfish. It's the opposite of that. Putting yourself on the back burner and putting everyone else first in your life, I say that is not the way to be. Being but a lot of people would call that being selfish, and I just totally disagree. I see there's 23 people here. If you're coming in, we're just ending, but I would love to have you put in the chat where you're logging in from. Where are you watching from? We have New Zealand, Sweden, the US represented. So what other countries are represented? So self-love is not selfish. Getting inner peace doesn't mean trying to be perfect and thinking that you're perfect, thinking that you're better than, right? That's not what having inner peace and having a sense of self is about. Peace is to stop turning yourself into a project that you think you need to fix. There is nothing about you that needs fixing. Hi, Curly QXYZ. Curly Q's. Is that how you say that? You're in Connecticut. Welcome, welcome. I'm glad to see you here. Um, we are just finishing, so if you want to go back and, watch the replay, it will be available shortly. Again, we talked about, inner peace and stop weaponizing, building a weapon to beat yourself up with, because that never leads to inner peace. And we talked about building self-trust, self-respect, and self-acceptance, because those three things are what allow you to unconditionally love yourself. Lene said, I'm in my late 40s and I'm accepting that I'm not looking like in my 30s anymore. Right. I'm starting to love my new experienced look. Exactly. We're not 20 and have all this wisdom, right? So I'm 63. I wouldn't go back to those younger ages, because I wouldn't give up the experiences, even though some of them sucked as I was going through them. But I needed to go through them in order, the main thing, in order to realize that I was the common denominator in my life, in all of my relationships, intimate relationships with my parents, family, friends, bosses, coworkers. I'm the common denominator. You are the common denominator in all of your relationships. So if something's happening in your life that you, and even in the relationship with yourself, that something's happening that isn't serving you in your life, then let's look within first. Are you respecting yourself? Are you accepting yourself? Are you trusting yourself, your intuition? Or are you listening to the ego that's telling you that you are separate and alone and that you have to figure it all out on your own? So, again, I highly recommend grabbing this book. The link is in the description. If you want to have a session with me, that link is in the description also. We can talk further. We can dive deeper into this. In the Rockies, would love to know what you think about the video that was released on Monday. It is called Why the Good Girl Thinks She Has to Put Herself Last, something like that. So go check that out. And I will see you. Oh, two more things. I go live every Wednesday at 2:22 Eastern time, so would love to see you back next week. Fun Earth for All. Hi, thanks for being here. Where are you logging in from? Where are you watching from? Would love to know. I go live every Wednesday at 2:22 for about 40 minutes or so, 45 minutes. Today we got kind of chatty, Southeast US. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. We're just ending, so you can go back and watch the replay. Go live every Wednesday at 2:22 Eastern time in the US, and I will be opening up the membership. We will be going deeper diving into, midlife and how to reinvent yourself, how to live your best life. I'll be going deeper in those. There are going to be meditations that are offered in that membership. And it's going to be $6 a month. So it's, a low entry point to get a monthly meditation that you can listen to. Um, I'm glad you found me. I appreciate you being here. Uh, I hope you'll join again next Wednesday. So that membership is starting on March 23rd, and you join it just right here through YouTube. So you don't have to go anywhere. There'll be videos that are posted in there that are just for members, the inner circle members. And again, there will be meditations in there that I've created and added music to. So there are beautiful meditations on getting things more like building your self-trust, building your self-respect, building your self-acceptance. So I look forward to you joining if that feels like a fit for you. I appreciate you so much being here, and I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday. Same bat channel, same time, same bat channel. What is that saying? Same bat time, same bat channel. All right, take care. Have a great week. See you next week.